Yesterday, I walked 75,000 steps in a day in barefoot shoes. And if you don't know what barefoot shoes are, they basically have a very thin, flexible sole, and there's no cushion. So I want to talk about how I feel, how I'm recovering, and compare the 50,000 step data to the 75,000 step data. In case you didn't know, yeah, I walked 50,000 steps last year, so I'm trying to increase my step count each year, apparently. All right, you might be wondering, Laura, how are you feeling? I'm feeling really tired. Can you tell? The two biggest things that are giving me discomfort right now, my right hip flexor and my right knee. I started noticing some pain and discomfort, mainly just discomfort around 50,000 steps yesterday. But those last 25,000 steps, boy, let me tell you, that discomfort really did transition into pain. So I'm obviously gonna take it easy on my hip flexor, but I'm also choosing to wear a knee brace today. It just feels like it needs a little extra support, and it's something I only anticipate wearing for maybe a day or two. But I'm just trying to be realistic, and as far as getting around the house and moving around at least a little bit, the extra support is welcome. And I think one of the most surprising things is that my feet actually feel okay. They feel tender, but I can definitely walk around, no problem. If it weren't for my hip flexor and my knee, I could go on a real walk. Like, I could probably walk another 10,000 steps today, no problem. But it's not gonna happen. And while that is a very conscious choice, I don't think my body would even let me today. Oh, and this might be interesting. It's something that I was kind of surprised by this morning, but my shins are actually sore. I think that'll probably go away in like a day, we'll see. But yeah, I had no idea that I think you just saw my brain fail. We've reached the end of the day and I have some updates for you. I've really been like limping around all day. There hasn't been much I've been able to do or have really wanted to do. According to my watch, I have walked under 4,000 steps today. Totally necessary. I do not feel bad about it, but there is that part of me that's like, ugh, that's weird. I'm just not used to being so inactive. Today is truly all about rest and recovery. And speaking of rest, it is time for me to take some of these. These are the Ned sleep capsules. They're phenomenal. They come in both capsule form and tincture form. But if you're ever in the market for CBD, I highly recommend you, well, one, you could check out Ned because they're phenomenal, and I've actually been using them for years. But you want to find companies that are third-party tested and they're willing to show you the results. That way you know exactly what you're getting. You know it's not like a biased report. For me, I will be honest, I don't like the taste of CBD. It doesn't matter what brand, I don't like it. I don't like the smell. No, but taking it in capsule form like this, my God, it just makes it so much easier. So this blend, of course, has CBD, but it also has CBN, and more studies need to come out, but the preliminary studies are showing that it does help promote sleep. I am gonna be taking 2 of these right now, in fact. Okay, yeah, and don't judge me. Every time I take a pill or something, I kind of shake my head. I wanna make sure they don't get stuck, because I don't have to explain myself. All right, this next one I've already taken tonight, and yeah, sorry, I forgot to film it, but Mellow. I mentioned this in my sleep video that I did a few weeks back. This is also from Ned, and this is a magnesium super blend. It does cross the blood-brain barrier. You put it in a drink and drink it, and voila! Fun fact, most of us are actually deficient in magnesium, so this is a very good thing. It leaves me feeling relaxed and calm, and I can ease into my evening routine. And also, if you're interested in Ned products in general, feel free to use my code BALANCINGLAURA. You can get 15% off. I'll leave that in the description below. You don't have to use it if you don't want. But look, my robe matches this. This next one is something that I thought I would get more use out of, but I'm not really at a point where I can do much with it, and that is the Theragun. So I thought that, I would just be using this the majority of the day, but to be perfectly honest, everything is just a little too sensitive and tender. It works great. Under normal circumstances, I really enjoy it. But you know what? I thought this was worth mentioning because this is such a popular product. This next recovery tool is a little extra, and I'm totally here for it. But that is my red light. It is wired, but it has both wavelengths, and I think it was like 750 bucks. This thing is huge. It's from Red Therapy Company. They're fantastic. I had heard good things and like I can confirm. Now something I've been really looking forward to doing is comparing my 50,000 step adventure to my 75,000 step adventure. Now as obvious as this may be, I did of course walk more steps per hour during the 75K versus the 50K. Now what really gets me is this timeline view. So if you first look at the 50,000 steps, you can see I didn't even hit 10,000 steps until around 9 o'clock. And the time it took me to hit 20 or 30 or 40,000, like several hours went by. Of course, 7 to 9 p.m. I was like, okay, I gotta get to work. For 75,000 steps, I definitely picked up the pace. Now I started a few hours earlier for the 75,000 steps, but I was able to hit those 10,000 step milestones quicker because, well, I was walking more. But I do think it's kind of interesting that my pacing seems to be a little more steady and a little more constant throughout the day for the 75K. 50K, what was I doing with my time? I was not using time efficiently. And I think it's kind of interesting that I completed both challenges around the same time. I think it was like around 9:30 for both. It is pretty cool to be able to have all of this data, map it out, and see where I can improve. Now I want to wrap this video up and talk about some of the lessons that I learned and keep it very high level, but have it apply to anybody who might be interested in attempting this kind of challenge. Also, if you've made it this far into the video, I hope you'll consider subscribing. Ultimately, start early. The earlier in the day, the better, because you're gonna have more energy. I swear, once the sun goes down, so does your energy, so does your motivation. Again, the earlier you can start, but ideally savoring as much sleep as you possibly can. Next is limiting your time in transit. Now this really depends on what your step goal is, but if you're trying to hit something like 75,000 or 100,000, you want to spend as little time in the car as possible. Now for the 50K, if I hadn't spent all that time in transit, I probably would have finished the day sooner, but you know what? I didn't. But it was fun to have a destination, someplace to go, someplace to explore. So weigh your options or maybe try and get to that destination as early as possible. Next is be mindful of your pace. Again, this is also kind of dependent on what your step goal is, but I was astonished looking back at the 50,000 steps just how slow I was walking. Now this did tie into hanging out with people and just not feeling the pressure of time, but I'm really glad that I upped the pace in general for the 75,000 steps. But you also don't want to move too fast. You want to find a pace that's sustainable. And you should probably expect that you're going to slow down in the latter part of the day. This next one wasn't initially obvious to me, but you want to pay attention to how much time you're spending in the sun and how intense the sun is. I did the 75,000 steps in March very intentionally because in April, it was a little too hot for the 50,000 steps, and I think I ended up being a little more tired because I was in the sun and not in a shaded area for the majority of the day. Next is to make sure that you're properly fueled and hydrated throughout the day. I'm normally very, very good with hydration, but fueling was really my main issue, especially for the 75,000 steps. I really should have made that more of a priority, but you know what? This is me learning a lesson. And maybe the most important lesson or takeaway that I've gotten from this, and it's not necessary, but to make it a more enjoyable experience, I think having various distractions throughout the day. So having audiobooks and podcasts ready to go, but also feel free to call a friend or even have a friend come join you. I cannot even explain how helpful that was for both the 50,000 and 75,000. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I know this was a little more informational and just like kind of like sit down, let me talk through all of the things, but it's information that I think I would have found helpful, and also it might help you determine whether or not this is a challenge or a type of challenge that you would be interested in trying. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, and thank you again for all of your support and for cheering me on through this crazy adventure. Bye guys!